Welcome to Bloomers in the Garden. I'm Len Schroeder.
And I'm Hoya Zamora.
In our first segment, a listener called the Bloomers in the Garden hotline, and you can too, and asked a follow-up question to our Southern Magnolia segment from a couple weeks ago. He asked about the Teddy Bear Southern Magnolia. Hear all about it in our first segment.
We received a text message from a listener who was having problems growing tomatillos and only has one plant left. We'll explain why this is a problem in our second segment.
Julia called the Bloomers in the Garden hotline and asked about growing peaches. Hear how to raise peaches in our third segment.
We're in the midst of the dog days of summer. Yes, we are. In our fourth segment, we have some tips for you and your plants to get through without becoming a hothead.
What's bugging you? Are the tips of your spruce or Douglas fir turning brown? It could be Cooly or Eastern Spruce Gall Adelgid. Hear all about this not fatal diagnosis in our first segment. Final segment.
That's it. So stay tuned. We will be right back in the garden right after these messages. Bloomers in the Garden is brought to you each week by Bloomers Home and Garden Center. Bloomers is an award-winning garden center just 20 minutes from Philadelphia. Bloomers has been providing expert advice turning brown thumbs green for over 30 years. At Bloomers, we want you to ask us every question, even if you think it's silly. We share information in a friendly, non-judgmental way that is meant to teach and spread the joy of gardening. Visit Bloomers Home and Garden Center in Washington Township, Gloucester County. For directions, go to bloomers.com, and we'll see you in the garden. Fertilome's Triple Action contains 70% neem oil and 0.25% pyrethrins as a concentrate and ready to spray. It is an insecticide, fungicide, and miticide labeled to use on vegetables, fruits, nuts, herbs, spices, and ornamentals. This organic OMRI-listed product controls a wide variety of insect pests and diseases, including aphids, scale, spider mites, whiteflies, rust, leaf spot, and powdery mildew. This insecticide is an all-in-one bottle that will cure just about any problem you may run into throughout the year. Fertilome's Triple Action has been helping gardeners across the country for years. Best to apply in late evening and early morning hours. Mix 1 ounce, which is equivalent to 2 tablespoons in a gallon of water. The best part is, Triple Action may be used up to the day of harvest. So, the next time you are visiting your favorite garden center, ask for Fertilome's Triple Action and expect to have the best-looking plants in the neighborhood.
You're listening to Bloomers in the Garden Radio. Listen anytime through your favorite podcast provider or see and hear us by subscribing to Bloomers YouTube channel. Bloomers in the Garden Radio is heard in Philadelphia and throughout the whole Delaware Valley every Saturday. First, wake up with us at 6 a.m. on WNWR The Word at 95.3 FM and 1540 AM. Tune in at 8 a.m. to Bloomers in the Garden Radio on Talk 860 WWDB. A rebroadcast of Bloomers in the Garden Radio is played each Saturday evening at 5 p.m. on The Word, 95.3 FM and 1540 AM. On Sunday at 8 a.m., we can be heard throughout the New York tri-state area on Classic Oldies, 1250 AM WMTR. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you in the garden. Some eye candy. This is Aaron. By the way, if you're looking for a band, look up eye candy online. Aaron?
Yeah, eye candy, man. Good. Facebook, on the web, just Google us. Yeah. We're out there. Thank you guys.
Anything you can't do?
He does it all.
Anyway.
Oh man. Thank you, guys. I appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem. Hey, do you want to grow a teddy bear?
Yeah, right.
A listener called the Bloomers in the Garden hotline and asked about the Teddy Bear Southern Magnolia. Here, listen to his call.
I have a question about Teddy Bear Magnolias. How hardy are they? Thanks.
They are hardy between 7 and 9. So zone 7 to 9. Those in our farthest northern range aren't going to get it. So if you're anywhere from, I would say, again, you can get it to grow in some of the areas of northern Jersey that we call northern Jersey, Passaic County. You are right on the cusp of that area. So make sure you look at the hardiness zone map and take a look at 7. I know that there are types that are supposedly zone 7, even a little warmer, in a protected area are getting traction in that section of the country. So again, zone 7, they've parsed up the zones so much. So I would say anything in zone 7, whether it's A, B, what have you, anything in zone 7, you're good. And then to zone 9, which is tropical. So, but grow a Southern Magnolia. And Teddy Bear's a great one.
Yeah, it is.
It's really compact. And like Little Gem, it doesn't get to be that enormous Southern Magnolia that I have in my yard,
brackens.
Which is getting a little big.
Yeah.
Every year it's getting closer and closer. It's far away from the house by probably 25 feet.
Oh, okay.
The branches are starting to get close to the house.
Close.
Wow. Yeah. It's not part of the landscape. It's just kind of a section that's isolated by the pool where it's part of the landscape there.
That's right.
Oof. They're getting big. So
that's right.
Teddy Bear or Little Gem, both of those are compact growers. Now, specifically, the Teddy Bear variety, it's going to have the reddish-brown undersides of the leaves. It's going to have the full-sized flower. So just because it's a more compact grower doesn't mean it's going to be smaller flowers. We're talking about 8-inch, the largest flower that we have.
Very visible.
Yeah, it is. It is. And that where it also, the fruit that they get are very unique to where they do turn color. They go from like a tannish color to almost a pink.
Oh,
very cool. Very cool. So how big does it get? Whose lifetime, right, Julio?
Oh, yeah, I know. It's like moderate grower, so it's not going to be fast.
Right.
So it'll take time for it to be where it needs to be. Which is around
how tall?
16 to 20 feet. That's
but more importantly, how wide?
10 to 12, which is really great.
Yeah, because again, you're talking about you measure from your house and you measure half that distance. So it's going to be, 5 to 6 feet from there. So it makes a great corner plant for your home, especially like 2-story homes. No problem.
Yeah.
No problem.
Great specimen plant.
Evergreen. Evergreen. And it just is a great plant. Even in a big pot. We're talking a big pot.
Big pot.
Big pot, like a big concrete container.
Right.
Definitely could be if you've got one of those McMansions that you're not sure what to do with it and put it in there. That'd be great. And remember, these flowers begin in late spring. So we're talking about May. And they have a lemon scent to them. And again, 8 inches across.
Yeah, you can't miss it.
I love my Southern Magnolia. It's getting a little obnoxiously large. And it also has a tendency to drop leaves in the growing season where this tree is compact, so it's not as big a problem. But like you're talking about, mine is almost 60 foot tall.
Ooh, that tall.
It's big. It's big. And it also is probably about 30
wide?
At least.
Really?
At least. It's probably more than that. It's probably 40.
Wow.
It's big. It would be considered full grown.
So you're getting a lot of flowers on that.
Oh, yeah. It was covered in flowers. It was covered in flowers. Again, mine is Bracken Beauty, which gets to the full size compared to this nice, compact, almost landscape size where it's 20 foot tall, 12 foot wide in its largest. But again, how long is it going to take to get there? Like I'm talking about mine, like it got there overnight. It took 30 years for mine to get there. You know what was in that spot before?
No, what?
I had birch.
Oh, you did? Wow.
I had a birch there, and I had a European white birch, and we all know that they have bronze borer, and they just got killed. So I had to think of something to replace it with that would be good, and
now I haven't heard anything about the magnolias having any insect problems or anything.
No.
Like that. Have you?
No.
No.
Nope. So easy plant.
Easy
plant. So if you're new to landscaping stuff, it's a great choice. Don't get sticker shock, okay? They are a little pricey, but you're getting evergreen flowers, everything. You've got it all. Mm-hmm. You've got it all. All right. We'll be right back right after these messages. Hi, this is Len Schroeder from Bloomers in the Garden. Do you have a landscape, garden, or plant question? If so, call or text us using the Bloomers in the Garden hotline. Dial 609-685-1880. That's 609-685-1880. Don't be shy. We want to hear from you. Call or text us and let us know what problems you're facing. Let us know how we're doing. Call or text 609-685-1880. If we use your comment on the air, we'll send you a free Bloomers t-shirt. Call or text us at 609-685-1880. That's 609-685-1880. And we'll see you in the garden. Wanting to up your game in the vegetable garden? With 90 years of organic gardening experience, the Espoma Company has you covered. Espoma Organic Garden Tone is not your average garden variety fertilizer. Garden Tone is especially blended for organic vegetable gardens. Its all-natural formula contains Biotone, a blend of organic ingredients that supplies essential nutrients for strong, healthy plants and mouth-watering vegetables. Its slow-release formula provides continuous feeding. The Biotone contained in Garden Tone is a combination of organic ingredients and beneficial microbes to help roots grow deeper and faster for bigger, more bountiful harvests. Garden Tone is simple to use and safe for people, pets, and the planet. No harmful chemicals or synthetic fertilizers are ever added. You can find Garden Tone at fine garden centers. Visit espoma.com to find a retailer near you. Garden Tone from Espoma, a natural in the garden since 1929.
Last year, millions of Americans asked the internet about protecting their lawns and gardens. There's one simple answer: Bio Advanced. Because gardeners have trusted the Blue Bottle for decades. Invasive insects? Blue Bottle. Lawn fungus? Blue Bottle. Japanese beetles? Blue Bottle. A Bio Advanced answer for every question and guaranteed solutions for every problem. Bio Advanced. Get more from the Blue Bottle. Bio Advanced all-in-one rose and flower care controls insects and diseases, plus feeds.
Welcome back to Bloomers in the Garden. A listener texted the Bloomers Home and Garden hotline and was struggling growing tomatillos. A tomatillo is a small green spherical fruit that looks like a small tomato covered by a paper husk. They're most often associated with salsa verde. Here is the text.
Hi. I am new to growing plants from seeds. This year I tried purple tomatillos, but gave up because the plants grew so slowly. I did end up with one plant, which now has flowers, but I understand they need two in order to get fruit. I cannot find another plant anywhere. Do you have a suggestion? Thank you. Come to Bloomers. We have 3 plants left.
Right.
3. They're a little overgrown, but they may even be bigger than the one you have. But again, why do you need 2? I'll tell you what. It takes 2 to tango, right?
Tango. Yep.
Yeah. And it takes 2 to cross-pollinate and for them to have fruit.
That's right.
They are not a tomato. They are not a pepper. They are actually from deadly nightshade is actually a weed. It's a vining weed. And the flowers look the same, but they're a little bit purple. But I don't know if, Aaron, if you're looking on YouTube, where this has some flowers on it, and that you can cross-pollinate these on your own. It's not necessary if, you have 2 plants that the insects will do it, so the bees will come buzzing around, and they'll go into one flower, and then they'll go into the other plant's flower, and they'll cross-pollinate that way. Now, it's not that there are boys and girls. It's just that they have to cross with another plant to be fertilized, if you will. It's a burden that's in the bees, Julio.
That's right. It's all made to produce.
Here's some ways that you can do it. You can do a small paintbrush, like an artist's paintbrush, where you go and you swirl around inside the flower of the one plant and cross it to the next plant. And that you then take that paintbrush back and you put it into the original plant. And you just go back and forth to each flower and new flowers. So you can't forget about the new flowers. You can't just do it necessarily once or else you'll only have those fertilized. So you can do this yourself as well. Especially if you're new, like where our texter had said that they're new, I would do it and do the pollination yourself. You can, get your bee on. Just go buzz, and just go from each flower to flower to flower to flower. And then you're doing the bees' work, but at least you'll be sure that you'll have them crossed.
Wow.
Now,
amazing, huh?
Yeah.
It's going to be like the gardening's Bob Ross, right?
Yeah. It's not bad. Well, in a way.
Yeah.
Hey, I was talking to, I guess, my son-in-law. I was saying, I'm an artist. Where my palette of paint are the plants. Okay. Julio, I think you're the same way. Aaron?
Yeah, somewhat.
You're artist in training.
I'm a different type of, I guess, perception of my art. I'm starting to get more visual. But, I'm a musician, so.
That's it.
Using that voice.
That's it.
Awesome.
Julio, we were talking about, salsa verde.
Salsa verde,
yeah.
Mm-hmm, sure.
But what else? You were saying that there are other things you can use it for. Is that,
well,
do you know of anything else besides that?
Oh, you can use it in a lot of tamales and tacos and things like that. You can add it to it.
And it's not hot like a pepper, but it has a tang.
Yeah, a little tang, but you can add the heat to it to make it hot. You can add jalapenos to it.
Okay, to
make it,
and then it will
little heat.
But on its own, it's not like it's not super hot.
No, it isn't.
Yeah, because I know that salsa verde, I don't like a lot of really hot ghost peppers. Let me show you how hot it is. I just honestly I think it's stupid. But where this is, I can take. It's got some heat, and I like the fact that there are some things where you have that heat where it comes on slow, or it has like an afterburn kind of thing. But again, it's an interesting plant, and also I'm going to stop placing them by the tomatoes. We do this all the time. It's because it looks like a tomato, and this pisses me off because celery looks like parsley. Let's put it next to the parsley. We stopped doing that a couple of years ago. We still are doing celery and cilantro because they look alike. But anyway, with this, we're make it a separate category.
Right.
It has been used for years. Like you said that Vicenta, if you're listening, that Vicenta used to use it all the time. Sandy said that she uses it a lot.
All the time. It's a staple for them.
Yeah. Yep. And it goes all the way back to pre-Columbian era in Mexico. So this is something that's not around. It's not like, let's discover this deadly nightshade plant. No,
for us it's kind of new because we don't use it that much.
No, and it's kind of like, where's the husk? When do you know when to harvest it? That's the challenge. You harvest it when that husk is papery and it almost is at the point where it splits, right. and then you harvest it. But you need two plants because they need to cross pollinate for fruit production. And to our texter that you may get by some off chance fruit, you may, but it's not likely. But again, it's who knows? Maybe your neighbor has them. Yeah, who knows? Yeah. Sometimes there are quirky things happen in nature. So next year, or take the trip down to Bloomers because we've got it. There's only 3 left, and somebody's going to be disappointed because there may be just 1 left. But again, they are pretty large, and they are at the point where it's
kind of viney.
Where we're not even sure. At Bloomers, quality-wise, are just on the verge of not being saleable any longer. Yeah. But again, I'm happy to see that we had them.
Yeah, somebody called about it, which is amazing. Yeah.
Well, it is. And this is not anything you've grown, right?
No, I don't.
Have you ever used them in cooking?
No.
No?
It's a Mexican thing,
Right, and you're Cuban.
Yeah.
Which a lot of people make that mistake. Where it's like, they're the same.
Yeah.
It's like, no, they're both Spanish, but not
different culture.
Different cultures, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
They eat differently than we do.
You know, it's interesting that they are perennial.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And they are perennial, but you treat them as an annual. Yeah. I'm not sure that you would get the same results from the following year. Sure. So just grow them as an annual.
Yeah, they come in every year.
If you want to give it a shot where you leave it in the ground and see what happens, it's probably going to sprout from the root system and come up that way. But again, I think you should just plant them every year and do more than. And like our texter found out that they went and they did, they planted by seed.
By seeds, yeah.
And they weren't successful. They only had one plant that survived, and where they only had one plant left. So when you plant them, don't plant two, just in case one dies.
That's right.
You know, who knows? Plant 4, something like that, where you know that you can, if you end up having 50% loss, you still have 2 plants. So plant more than just 2. Plant at least 4. And then your success for cross-pollination is almost assured. They do not think they're tomatoes. They are not tomatoes. They look a lot like tomatoes, but they are not tomatoes. You need to treat them a little bit differently. As far as water goes, you let them to dry out in between. It's not a very difficult plant to grow. So give it a try.
Yeah.
Give it a try.
Great.
All right. We'll be back in the garden right after this. Hi, this is Len Schroeder from Bloomers in the Garden. Do you have a landscape, garden, or plant question? If so, call or text us using the Bloomers in the Garden hotline. Dial 609-685-1880. That's 609-685-1880. Don't be shy. We want to hear from you. Call or text us and let us know what problems you're facing. Let us know how we're doing. Call or text 609-685-1880. If we use your comment on the air, we'll send you a free Bloomers t-shirt. Call or text us at 609-685-1880. That's 609-685-1880. And we'll see you in the garden. We are proud to announce that Bloomers in the Garden has partnered with Renewal by Andersen of Greater Philadelphia, Delaware, South Jersey, and Southern Maryland. Renewal by Andersen is the top window and door company in the United States, specializing in replacement windows and doors. You might be thinking right now, what the heck do windows have to do with gardening? Well, Renewal by Andersen makes this beautiful garden bay window that's energy efficient and made from recycled materials. It's perfect for growing the finest indoor plants possible. When you are looking out your windows filled with plants in your beautiful garden, you don't want to see old windows that are cloudy, warped, or even rotting. That's why people in the horticulture community love Renewal by Andersen. Not only do we want our gardens to be beautiful, but their homes as well. Renewal by Andersen participates in horticultural events such as flower shows, earth days, and eco fairs. To get more information and set up a free home consultation, please visit www.philadelphiawindow.com and be sure to tell them Bloomers in the Garden sent you. You're listening to Bloomers in the Garden Radio. Listen anytime through your favorite podcast provider or see and hear us by subscribing to Bloomers YouTube channel. Bloomers in the Garden Radio is heard in Philadelphia and throughout the whole Delaware Valley every Saturday. First, wake up with us at 6 a.m. on WNWR The Word at 95.3 FM and 1540 AM. Tune in at 8 a.m. to Bloomers in the Garden Radio on Talk 860 WWDB. A rebroadcast of Bloomers in the Garden Radio is played each Saturday evening at 5 p.m. on The Word 95.3 FM and 1540 AM. On Sunday at 8 a.m., we can be heard throughout the New York tri-state area on Classic Oldies 1250 AM WMTR. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you in the garden. Welcome back to Bloomers in the Garden. Julia called the hotline and asked about growing peaches. Listen to her call.
Hi, my name is Julia. I'm calling about how do you, for peach trees growing in your garden, what do you use for fertilizers to cause them to have sweet peaches on them? That's one of the questions I need. Yeah. Thank you. Bye.
Well, it's a lot harder than just add in fertilizer.
That's it.
If we were to suggest a fertilizer, it would be Tree Tone by Espoma. It is organic. It's perfect for both fruit trees and shade trees and ornamental trees. It is an analysis to produce fruit, but you need more. Peaches and all fruit trees, there's a reason why not everybody grows them. It needs some things. Now, we're going to go through it. It's not like a vegetable garden where you kind of plant your plants and then you hope the sunshine and everything else brings your fruit, whether it's tomatoes or tomatillos, or whether it's cucumbers, or no matter what you put in. It needs horticultural care.
Yes.
Wow, that sounds fancy, huh?
Yeah,
fancy. Fancy. All right, so let's go through the basics. Peach trees need full sun, well-drained soil, and protection from harsh weather. What's that mean? Harsh weather.
Harsh weather?
I guess
environmental
wind. It needs.
wind.
It's in most of our listening area, you're fine for growing peaches. Yeah. You need care. They need care. They're going to need to be watered in season. They need to be pruned. If you don't prune them, you don't get fruit. And Julie, I would suggest, I don't know how long or how old your peach is, but if you've never pruned it, pruning is something that you need to do and will help your peach to form the flowers in the way that they're not only going to produce fruit, but they're also going to prevent disease from getting onto the peaches. So they're not going to be like all brown inside or there's something going on. Also, you need to look out for insects and, like we mentioned, disease. But it's
pest.
But let's cover pruning first.
Yeah.
Your goal when you prune a peach tree is to have it as a vase shape with an open center so that you get a lot of airflow around the branches and leaves and fruit. Now, late winter is the optimum time to prune peaches. Now, we talk about late winter pruning all the time, like when we're talking about panicle type hydrangeas or viburnums or certain types like buddleia. Late winter pruning is something that's done on a lot of different plants. Now, just add peaches to your pruning schedule in late winter. You want to do it when the tree is dormant. And again, it's all about opening it up, taking any cross branches, making sure that it's that open vase shape. And you want to do it before any spring growth has happened so that it's healed when it begins to grow. So again, we're talking about late February, mid-February, early March, very early March. Don't wait too long. Key thing is don't use crappy tools.
Yeah, that's another
use a sharp pruning shear, and that those branches will be a clean cut and not be crushed before you do it. And the scissor type of pruner is what you want. You don't want an anvil type. An anvil type, if you're looking on YouTube, an anvil type is that kind where you have like a platform and the blade crushes onto the platform before it cuts. You want a scissor type so that it bypasses the other blade and that will give you a nice, sharp, clean cut. And you want to make sure, Julio, every time I go to you, because you do this, what do you do after you make your cuts? Do you clean your tools?
I clean all my tools.
How do you clean them?
I use a little bit of bleach, water and bleach. Not much bleach, just a little bit to clean anything bacterial.
Because there are pathogens where if you have a diseased branch and you're cutting and going to the next one, you're spreading it. Now, instead of it being just in one area, you've got it all over your whole tree. So what to do is when you're opening up the canopy to be that open V shape, that you want to make sure that you're cleaning your blade so you're not taking it and spreading that disease that possibly may be there. And I don't care if you don't see it. If you don't see it, I don't have a disease on my plant. It's fine.
Yeah,
well, guess what?
Yeah, too.
You might, because when the leaves are all off and you just have branches, it's pretty darn hard to know whether you've got leaf curl or you have some other things. So just do it as just a good practices. You're going to take back things to the main trunk. A lot of times this may mean that you've got some big branches that you need to take off. And it's vital for, again, opening up that interior for light and air to penetrate through. You want to take out stuff that is like, basically is making it stuffy. You know, it's too full. You want to shorten the branches or the shoots, and you don't remove it entirely. So that's like called a heading cut. It stimulates growth, and it ends up having it in a bushier appearance. So again, pruning is probably the most ignored thing that people do or don't do when it comes to fruit trees. But it's the most important for fruit production. When you have disease issues or insect issues, unfortunately, it's attractive. These fruit trees, they have a lot of sugar content, and in some cases that those trees are just like a target to certain insects and certain diseases for sure. So by opening up, again, going back and I can't say it enough, pruning your fruit tree. By opening it up, it will eliminate a lot of the diseases, but it also, birds are our friends, okay? They do the work of a spray insecticide that they'll come and they'll pick off those bugs and eat them. So if you have birds in your neighborhood or birds near your fruit trees, that's a great thing. Not so much when they're trying to eat your fruit, but when they're trying to eat the insects that are on your fruit tree, they're your buddies.
That's right.
Peach borers. Ugh. Now, they lay their eggs on the tree in the fall, and then they hatch, and they burrow into the tree, and when you see like sap just oozing out of it, that's a borer. That's borer. That you've got an issue. You've got to take care of that. It could kill your tree. Just make sure you're keeping an eye out for that. Aphids are a pain because they are such mass. Like just think like they all of a sudden a mass of insects, and aphids on their own are not that big a deal. But when they come in mass, there are so many generation that they cause a black soot called honeydew, and we've talked about that. And honeydew is, Julio?
Poop.
Say it louder.
Poop.
Poop. I love making Julio say poop. It is not. It is not in Julio's
repertoire.
Yeah, he doesn't say poop often. Anyway, but what it does is it covers a tree with a black, sooty. Just covers the and not only that, but foliage. Like all of a sudden your leaves are all like, we get it all the time. People come in, it's like, look, my leaves are all black. They're not black because they have, like, say, a mold on them. They're black because they have aphids that have now attracted other insects that are damaging the tree. You have to be on a spray program. A spray program, when the bud begins to break in the spring, you start spraying. And look, a home orchard spray is going to be the perfect thing because it's a mixture of insect and disease control, and you just need to use it. And it's probably every 2 to 3 weeks because there's a first stage is that bud, next stage is that, 3/4 flower, the next stage is when fruit develops. And we have, Aaron, we were talking about where we have a form that we can give people. What is that?
Absolutely. So we at Bloomers, we've actually curated a fruit tree care guide. And so for anybody who has questions regarding early spring, what you should be doing next year, what you should be doing in the fall with your fruit trees in terms of pruning, the whole nine, how you should be fertilizing. We've made that list available for you. So if you'd like one, feel free to reach out to us on the hotline. Let's say it together, guys. 609-685-1880. Reach out, please. All right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Or you can just stop into Bloomers or shoot us a message on our website and we'll definitely get you one. Absolutely.
And that will cover everything from pruning to spraying insecticides and disease controls.
Correct.
And for all fruit trees, not just peaches, but peaches are included. So
absolutely.
Make sure that you give us a call on the hotline and that ask that, can you please send me, don't forget to give us your address, and that we'll get it to. We also can send that to your email as a PDF, so we can do that as well. Just please get in touch with us on the hotline. Fruit trees are tricky, and it's not just add fertilizer. They need to be sprayed. They need to be pruned. And when you start understanding that and doing that, it becomes a hobby, and it also becomes endearing because you get better and better and better at it. So again, ask for that fruit tree guide. Please contact us, and that we'll get it out to you as soon as possible. All right, we've got another break coming up. We'll be right back in the garden right after this. Hi, this is Len Schroeder from Bloomers in the Garden. Do you have a landscape, garden, or plant question? If so, call or text us using the Bloomers in the Garden hotline. Dial 609-685-1880. That's 609-685-1880. Don't be shy. We want to hear from you. Call or text us and let us know what problems you're facing. Let us know how we're doing. Call or text 609-685-1880. If we use your comment on the air, we'll send you a free Bloomers t-shirt. Call or text us at 609-685-1880. That's 609-685-1880. And we'll see you in the garden. Do you remember seeing that light green grass growing high in your yard late last June? Well, that was nutsedge grass. It always had a lighter green color, and it always grew faster than the rest of the lawn, and you'd find it in other places like along the sidewalk. It is the worst weed in the world. It's hard to get rid of, and what you need to use is Fertilome's Weed Out Nutsedge Control. It will control both yellow and purple nutsedge, plus over 50 broadleaf weeds such as dandelions, clover, chickweed, and ground ivy. Fertilome's Weed Out Nutsedge Control gets absorbed by the roots and the leaves, and within days the sedges are gone. You may even reseed after 4 weeks of spraying the nutsedge. So when you start seeing those light green glass sprays growing in your yard, make sure you purchase Fertilome's Weed Out Nutsedge Control to kill any nutsedge threatening to invade your nice green lawn. You're listening to Bloomers in the Garden Radio. Listen anytime through your favorite podcast provider, or see and hear us by subscribing to Bloomers YouTube channel. Bloomers in the Garden Radio is heard in Philadelphia and throughout the whole Delaware Valley every Saturday. First, wake up with us at 6 a.m. on WNWR The Word at 95.3 FM and 1540 AM. Tune in at 8 a.m. to Bloomers in the Garden Radio on Talk 860 WWDB. A rebroadcast of Bloomers in the Garden Radio is played each Saturday evening at 5 p.m. on The Word, 95.3 FM and 1540 AM. On Sunday at 8 a.m., we can be heard throughout the New York tri-state area on Classic Oldies, 1250 AM WMTR. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you in the garden.
Welcome back to Bloomers in the Garden.
Wait a minute.
Hey, welcome back to Bloomers in the Garden. I stumped Julio for the first time in 5 years.
Unbelievable.
Anyway, listen, the Old Farmer's Almanac considers the dog days of summer to be the 40 days beginning July 3rd and ending August 11th. So, folks, we are in the midst of it. Oh, my gosh. I don't remember July being so hot. Do you?
No.
Or dry. Or it's dry.
Dry,
it's very,
right?
very dry.
At least you get like those tropical storms once in a while at night where it cools everything down for a little while, waters your plants. It hasn't happened.
So do you think that the actual Farmer's Almanac is accurate across the board?
I think it is a historical data on farming and agriculture.
Okay.
So,
Gotcha.
And you see the thing, it's a little tiny little booklet.
Yeah.
So a lot of
people have success though.
Reading
sure, using the Farmer's Almanac.
I do.
My neighbor uses it daily with his chickens and everything else and his crops out there. Yeah, he swears by that thing.
Lancaster Farming News.
Yeah,
you think the New York Times, Sunday New York Times is big?
Yeah, we know that.
Someone gave me a booklet this big.
Oh yeah, folded paper, a weekly newspaper, Lancaster Farming News. And it's like. Hey, you guys don't think we do research?
Right, right.
Those Amish guys,
they know what's going on.
They are the best farmers in the country.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Anyway.
All right, dog days.
Dog days of summer. So what does that mean? Watering. First things, like water. Water. I don't know. Julio, explain the index finger probe for me.
Make sure that you're using your index finger to check to see if your plant is dry or wet. That is critical from the first step that you make. So you need to go into the plant's soil and make sure that your index finger is down there and checking to see where your plant is at that moment that you need to act on it.
And how do you know? Like if you keep going and like it's still wet. Like we try to tell people this, when you use your finger and you test the soil, that you develop a pattern. But during these dog days,
it's a little different.
A pattern is pretty difficult. Previous to that, you could pretty much say it's like, all right, every third day I need to water. But now it may be if it's really humid. Like today is a beautiful day. Today the humidity is low, so that's going to make things dry out. But when the humidity is high, your watering may last another day and may last another day. So, again, you got to keep check on your containers and your hanging baskets for sure, because the humidity is going to play a part on how fast that the moisture is lost through the leaves of your plant.
That's the thing.
Newly planted landscape plants. So I planted these in March. Do I still have to water them?
Sure.
I planted them yesterday. Do I still have to water them?
Sure.
Doesn't matter. When you planted them, you're still going to have to water them. Plants take a full year. Landscape plants, we're talking about trees and shrubs and roses, anything that is a woody stemmed plant, even perennials, of course. Perennials I almost chalk up there with annuals that on how to care for them. Don't trust your irrigation system. It's a mistake. It's a false sense of security that, I've got to... Horticultural sparring. Customer comes in, says, my plant doesn't look good. Did you water it? I have a sprinkler system. It's like, well, that solved your problems? No, that probably contributed to them because you're watering for 10 minutes a zone, and your sprinkler guy, who has never grown a plant in his life, is telling you that that's what it needs. And the reality is that's maybe set for a lawn. Not really, but that's another show. The reality is you can't rely on that sprinkler system. Yeah. You've got to go out and check. And again, your index finger probe, every time, put that finger in the ground, and you have to determine whether it, at that moment, and especially during these dog days of summer, it's only 40 days,
That's it.
Noah was in the ark that long. Right? That's worth thinking about that. Anyway, so it takes a year for your plants, your newly planted landscape plants to become established. So you've got to keep an eye to see if your sprinkler system is actually watering or just getting them wet. You need to do supplemental watering with a hose. Don't mess around, okay? How about your houseplants, Julio?
You got to keep an eye on those too.
Yeah?
Yeah, things change inside the house with humidity levels.
Yeah, and it's dry.
The same kind of thing. Yep.
Eric, if you're running your air conditioning 24/7, it is drying out that house, so it feels cooler. So you got to keep on top of watering, and all the time in the winter it's like don't fertilize. But now, feed your plants. Feed your plants, both inside and outside. It's time to feed your plants.
Right. Another thing that we brought up is that we like to because the sun's coming through the windows. Now we're going to shut those shades What happens?
The leaves turn yellow because they get no light. All of a sudden, your plant's all happy where it was. Oh, it's perfect in this position. And we often get customers that come in and say, oh, my plant doesn't seem to be doing good. Yeah. And like they forget. It's like, all right, I closed my blackout blinds so that my house would be cooler. And your plant is now getting no sunlight.
Now it's under shade.
Yep. So really important just to make sure and aware of what you're doing with your plants. Mm-hmm. But make sure you're checking them before you water, because overwatering during the dog days is a definite possibility because you're just blindly adding water. And then all of a sudden your plant can't come back from that because your plant is actually drowning and is not getting oxygen around the root system. You have to let that function to where it dries out a little bit, and then you water. Let it dry out a little bit, then you water, and not the other way around. Not, I'm going to keep it wet. Right. It's moist, right, but not wet. Right. Moist, but not wet. Wet is bad. Yeah. Wet is bad. I like to plant that. You get to finally feed your houseplants. Yeah. This is where they're going to take on some growth. They may drop some leaves because the new growth is replacing old growth, but also bugs. What's bugging you? This is the time. Yeah. Everything. Insects and diseases occur now on your plants outdoors and even insides. Like, how do plants get disease or get insects inside? Mm-hmm. And it happens where there could be, if you introduce a new plant inside a new house plant, there could be aphids that are as an egg form on the plant that look clean, looks good. You bought it from someplace that's reputable, but hey, greenhouses are open, right. And that, insects will lay eggs, and that's how, they're basically trying to conquer the world. It's Pinky in the Brain, right? Anybody? Pinky in the Brain? No Pinky in the Brain? Aaron says yes.
Yes.
You need to find me that, Sam. It's like where
the brain.
It's like we're going to do the same thing we do every night to how to conquer the world.
We're going to take over the world.
That's it.
Sure.
Love Pinky in the Brain. Anyway, the fact that the insects are they're breeding like crazy right now. It's what they do. Yeah. Life. And it's the circle of life. Mm-hmm. No Lion King. Okay. Mm-hmm. So get on your insect control right away. They breed when it's hotter. Like we're going to talk about in a couple of weeks, we're going to talk about insects, mites, and that how when it's hotter, they breed like crazy. And that's what insects like aphids and mites and things have going for them, that they can breed faster than we can control them. So it's not just one spray and done. Always think of it as if I'm spraying it once, I have to do it 3 times, about 7 to 10 days apart. And then that way I will kill all the generations. You want total destruction of the insect and the disease. And the only way of doing that is making sure that you're applying that control product more than once, because there are rarely things that are one and done. Or else they take it away from you like imidacloprid. Yeah. But that's another show. Anyway, again, you have eggs, then you have nymphs, which are basically baby insects. Then you have the adults. The old adults breed, they lay eggs, you have nymphs, you have adults, and that continues over and over and over. And if you only spray them once, you find that first generation is gone, but then the eggs hatch and they start all over again. And that a lot of time the residual is not good enough that it will protect them, especially on organic insecticides. Wow. Anything to add in these dog days?
Oof. Air conditioner, that's where I'm at.
Hey, yesterday I fed all of my plants outside, and that I noticed that I have 3 or 4 pots that they're big, enormous pots, and that they are not getting dry very fast. And I'm challenged. My glow-in-the-dark petunias are giving me a fit right now because they're in there, and that they are not growing as fast as they should be, because those pots are staying on the wet side. Yeah. Yeah. I drilled new holes in the bottom for it to drain. And I think that will certainly help. but they're not getting to that point where my index finger probe is feeling dry. It's always on the moist side, and I think I'm keeping them too wet.
Do you think you'll pull them out?
No.
Put them in a different pot? No.
$40 a piece, no way. I'm with them until the day one of us dies. They may be the end of me.
Yeah.
On that note, we're going to break. We'll be back right after this.
Spring is here, and people have a lot of questions about weed and feed. There's one simple answer. Bio Advanced 5-in-1 Weed and Feed. Just one application kills lawn weeds and prevents new weeds and crabgrass up to 6 months. And if crabgrass is already growing, it kills that too. Plus, 5-in-1 feeds and greens your lawn. Bio Advanced 5-in-1 Weed and Feed. Get more from the blue bag.
Here's the dirt on potting mixes. They're not all created equal. Espoma Organic Potting Mix gives roots the ideal balance of air and moisture. It contains a special blend of beneficial mycorrhiza to help grow stronger roots, bigger plants, and more bountiful blooms. Try Espoma Organic Potting Mix indoors and out for all your potted flowers, vegetables, and you'll see why it's the best. Visit espoma.com for a retailer near you. Organic potting mix from Espoma, a natural in the garden since 1929. Your next houseplant is waiting for you in Bloomer's Home and Garden Center's greenhouse. Bloomers recognizes that houseplant choices are as important to your interior decorating as the fabric on your couch. The right plant, paired with the perfect container, can bring a dynamic change to your home. A houseplant brings life to your world and connects your home's interior to the greater outdoors. Even a small succulent placed on your coffee table has a way of connecting your living room to the Amazon rainforest. How about an air plant in your kitchen? Looking for an indoor flowering plant to add color to your plant palette? Bloomers has a large revolving assortment of flowering beauties. From aglaonemas to ZZ plants, Bloomers Greenhouse is stocked with your next favorite indoor plant. Bloomers carries a large selection of pottery and containers to match your home's decor and make any of your plants more beautiful. Bloomers experts can help you care for your plants and have the fertilizer, insecticides, leaf shine, and specialty soils you need to grow healthy and happy indoor plants. Visit Bloomers Home and Garden Center's greenhouse and make every room in your home a living room. Visit bloomers.com for more information. That's bloomers.com, and we'll see you in the garden. Welcome back to Bloomers in the Garden. So, what's bugging me? What's bugging me? And this is an insect. When I was a young student, it was the first one that I learned about. It's Cooly, spruce skull, aphid, adelgid, and eastern spruce skull aphid, adelgid. Boy, I keep saying aphid because that's what we were told it was. But adelgid had come into play probably 20 years later. So they probably misdiagnosed it as an aphid, and it's really an adelgid. Anyway, if you have a spruce tree, like a big spruce tree, like I have a 15-foot spruce tree that's part of my landscape by my garage and my garbage cans. I have the best garbage can landscape anyway. The tips are brown. And a lot of times you would think that is an environmental issue. Or it's, say, spider mites. But spider mites, the whole plant would be turning one shade of color, or it would be not lustrous the way that it would if it's a mite. And that these usually occur in spruces and Douglas fir, and that what happens is just the tips all of a sudden look like, the very tips are like the new growth is brown. And it's either all over the plant or it's in just different spots. And that adelgid, what it does is it lays its eggs in the fall and that they hatch and then in the spring, and then they start eating away at the tips of the plants.
The new growth, huh?
The new growth, that's right. It generally never kills the plant, but it does make it look ugly. So the best thing to do, and whether it's the eastern adelgid makes it almost look like there are cones on the end of your plant. A lot of times you'll see Douglas fir where it looks like they have cones on the end of them. Those aren't cones. What those are is that's the eastern spruce gall adelgid. Cooly Spruce Gall Adelgid that, again, they are just a little different. But again, it's not something that's going to kill it, but you need to clean it up using a chemical control that usually it's the best thing to use is going to be a systemic insecticide, and you spray it and it will clean it up and it will stop looking like it's dying. So again, this is something where if you have a spruce or a fir or any other type of evergreen, and it looks like that the tips are just brown all over it, that is a possibility that it is the Spruce Gall Adelgid, and it needs to be sprayed. But the best time to spray it is in the fall. Yes, you need to stop the females from laying their eggs in the tips, and that happens in the fall. So you spray it in the fall and you clean everything up. Okay. So right now there's not a lot you're going to do about it. You're not going to change it, but if sprayed in the fall, then you'll have definitely good results. All right. We'll be right back in the garden right after this. Hi, this is Len Schroeder from Bloomers in the Garden. Do you have a landscape, garden, or plant question? If so, call or text us using the Bloomers in the Garden hotline. Dial 609-685-1880. That's 609-685-1880. Don't be shy. We want to hear from you. Call or text us and let us know what problems you're facing. Let us know how we're doing. Call or text 609-685-1880. If we use your comment on the air, we'll send you a free Bloomers t-shirt. Call or text us at 609-685-1880. That's 609-685-1880. And we'll see you in the garden. You're listening to Bloomers in the Garden Radio. Listen anytime through your favorite podcast provider or see and hear us by subscribing to Bloomers YouTube channel. Bloomers in the Garden Radio is heard in Philadelphia and throughout the whole Delaware Valley every Saturday. First, wake up with us at 6 a.m. on WNWR The Word at 95.3 FM and 1540 AM. Tune in at 8 a.m. to Bloomers in the Garden Radio on Talk 860 WWDB. A rebroadcast of Bloomers in the Garden Radio is played each Saturday evening at 5 p.m. on The Word, 95.3 FM and 1540 AM. On Sunday at 8 a.m., we can be heard throughout the New York tri-state area on Classic Oldies, 1250 AM WMTR. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you in the garden. Me and Julio.
Wow,
Another show in the bag.
Yes.
Julio, make sure that people are getting that fruit tree guide. And if you've got questions about anything in your garden, landscape, house plants, call that hotline, 609-685-1880. See you next week right here in the garden.
See you in the garden.